We had a very good conversation. We had a very, very good talk. He's going through an election now, and we'll see what happens. But we had a very good talk, the Prime Minister and myself, and I think things are going to work out very well between Canada and the United States.
Today, President Trump and I spoke on the phone. We had a very constructive discussion, and we agreed to begin comprehensive negotiations about a new economic and security relationship between our two sovereign countries immediately following the federal election. I made it clear I will be working very hard over the next month to earn the right to represent Canada in those discussions.
Yeah, there you go. Mark Carney, Donald Trump apparently are going out for a beer later tonight. So, wow, it's quite a day here in Canada. Tom Mulcair is standing by. Our feature is brought to you by Guaranteed Industries and Can-Air. For all your heating and air conditioning needs, give them a call, 514-342-3400. Online, guaranteedindustries.com. Tom, I'm trying to find something negative to say here just so I don't look like I'm in Mark Carney's camp. But I don't know how you take this, the phone call that happened today where both of them have come out and said, you know what, it was a good call, and trying to turn that into something negative. So help me out. How is that possible?
On this one, it's not, because this is the overarching issue of the campaign. It affects everything else, and Carney is able to come away from it with very good positive news. And he's also very careful not to presume anything. He says at the end, I'm going to work hard for the next month to get day for day till the election. We're going to work very hard for a month to get Canadians confident. So I think that was a 3-point jump shot, nothing but net. What's interesting to watch is the use of the first name. You remember when Justin Trudeau went out of his way to intentionally, in a press conference, say, Donald. Remember that one?
Yeah,
but it was like talking down, right, to a slow child. Here it was Mark, as in my buddy Mark.
Yeah.
We get along.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to do this. The interesting part for me politically is the promise to start negotiating comprehensively an economic and security treaty. Why is that important? Well, because smart people in the United States government will be telling Trump and the people around him that security of the United States depends a lot on being in good relations with Canada, because things like NORAD depend on that. And the economic part, well, Trump, of course, is breaking the rules that he signed last time when he declared that he had just written the best treaty in the world, because he said that NAFTA was the worst trade agreement in the world. The one that he wrote was the best, and now he's saying that one's no good. It doesn't matter. It'll require thought, it'll require hard work, and a little bit of abnegation on both sides. But I think we will come up with a deal, and then things will move forward. It's interesting. François Legault was pushing very much the same thing since the beginning, saying, what we have to do is sit down and renegotiate the deal. And it turns out that Trump and Carney are on the same page.
So I would, at this point, go on and ask, and the interesting part of this, of course, this is all happening in the middle of an election campaign. I know some people are upset. I took calls, and I'm reading some of the text, people saying, why is Mark Carney claiming he is the prime minister? Although I will point out, someone has to act as one right now, and he's the guy, right?
No, hold on. He's the Prime Minister of Canada.
No, what I'm saying, those people are saying it shouldn't be this way. He wasn't elected. You've heard the same thing. So how do you respond to that?
Well, I tried to respond to it because I have friends who are in the category of the people who are writing to you. I don't know if you saw this one, but this is sort of my favorite way of trying to explain everything that's wrong with Pierre Poilievre's campaign. He does sensible things. He's out on his law and order issues today, talking about fentanyl, putting people away, and they'll never come out of jail alive. His tough stuff that's worked for him. Okay, those are his types of themes. That's fine. But then he can't help himself in going headlong after Carney, and every time they do it, they just reinforce the perception of Canadians. Oh, this guy Carney's really got the royal jelly. So what were they on today? They'd gone through the 300 pages of his PhD thesis in economics at Oxford, and the professor who's been a professor for 40 years, who was in charge of his thesis, says she keeps a copy in her office. It was that good. So they went through the whole thing and says, well, he does give the citation. He quotes that, he says that this is from this person, but at one point he has a sentence here or a sentence there that he doesn't attribute. And that's plagiarism. So they get some guy from the university somewhere to say, oh, we would consider that plagiarism. So front page news, the National Post has turned itself into a blaring foghorn for everything against Carney. And they had 10 articles a day saying Carney's a bum. And it's not working. And this is what Nick Nanos and people, are trying to tell the Poilievre conservatives, your attacks on Carney are falling flat because all you do is remind Canadians that this guy has a PhD in economics from Oxford. Oh, by the way, he's got a master's in economics from Harvard, the best university in the U.S., and he's been the governor of the Bank of Canada and the governor of the Bank of England and the head of a $1 trillion company. So, Brookfield Assets, they went and signed a deal in China. That must be dodgy. No, it's not. That's how the world works, and Carney knows how the world works. So if they continue with the personal attacks, which might be satisfying for part of their base, they're just going to keep dropping like a stone in water because the rest of the voting universe, the progressives, the people on the NDP side and on the Green side are all saying, this time around, we're going to block this guy. And we're going to go with Carney, who has that type of ability to talk with the U.S. president and get stuff done. And it drives people nuts. Like, I'm so careful in my commentary. Like this week, I wrote a very glowing review of Poilievre's campaign launch, and I was careful to make sure that people understood that I agree completely with Poilievre when the Liberals attack him for his failure to get his security clearance. But that's never good enough. For the people who hate the Liberals, for the people who hate Trudeau and what that represented, they've just turned that hate over to Carney, but it ain't working. Canadians are looking at Carney. Quebecers are looking at Carney as the guy who can navigate us through the most real crisis in our history.
I want you to hear, I don't know if we have this clip here. So Yves-François Blanchet, we talked about, the NDP, of course, kind of falling off the map. Now, yep. I understand that you have to find something in an election campaign to pinpoint. You mentioned about this idea about the PhD thesis, which seems a little, over the top or a lot over the top, regardless. Then Yves-François Blanchet said this. I think this is about the Carney-Trump meeting. Listen to this, Tom.
He committed Canada to something that would happen only after the election, pretending in a gross manner that he would still be the prime minister. Maybe he won't. Let's people make that decision. There's more than 30 days to go in the campaign. So this is a very, very preposterous attitude.
Tom?
Well, there's not much left to say about Yves-François Blanchet. That sort of bluster has been his stock and trade, very much in line with what we used to get from Gilles Duceppe. It's all rhetoric, no content, because he's an armchair quarterback, a classic armchair quarterback, or, to quote François Legault, the head of the most useless party in Canadian history, because the Bloc Québécois is the most useless party in Canadian history. And so, he took great umbrage at the fact that in his own remarks today, Carney went after the Bloc a little bit, saying, like, really, what can they actually do about anything? And by the way, there'll never be a place for the French language in the United States if we become the 51st state. So he's talking straight to Quebecers' hearts. And he did use the expression, I think it was, the French expression is gérant d'estrade, the manager who sits in the grandstands, the equivalent of armchair quarterback. Oh, Blanchet was so insulted because this was an insult against all Quebecers. Yeah. No, Mr. Blanchet, it was a shot against you. Stop taking yourself for 8 million Quebecers.
Okay, I will leave that there. I will go back to one part of this, Tom, then we can move on. The idea that we're going to find out as much or as good as it sounded today when Donald Trump had said that they had a good meeting, something he's not said about anybody else he's ever met with on the Canadian side, including Howard Lutnick, who called Doug Ford, of course, famously, some guy in Ontario. Come April 2nd or April 3rd, when these tariffs actually get detailed. In other words, we know exactly what's going to be tariffed.
Please get your terminology right. Liberation Day. Please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Liberation
Day. Yes, sorry, Tom. When that day comes and we find out that Canada is going to be spared that 25% tariff, whatever number it happens to be, whether it's 2, 5, 10, but it won't be 25%.
Right.
How much does that help Mark Carney going forward?
That's speculative, and it's very hard to answer because it'll depend on the details, and those can be spun either way. Because if we're supposed to stand down, because don't forget, as usual, Trump's whole discussion, even though he says it went well, came with a threat. He said he will absolutely respond to retaliation with more tariffs. So he's saying that if we put tariffs on, that he's going to go after us even more. So we have to see how it actually plays out. But I think that everybody who's been involved in this has realized that Trump's always got the same technique: create absolute chaos using bluster and threat, then back away. But you're never backing away. You're just declaring victory and then walking away from your amazing result. So this is the pure Trump thing that the the Howard Lutnicks. By the way, Lutnick is a very smart guy, okay? He's the real deal. He's the real businessman that Trump has always pretended to be. He understands that he's dealing with a lunatic, but he can't say that. So he says, this is amazing. This is all going great. But maybe because it's making the stock price of American automobile manufacturers crash on the market, maybe we should do it slightly differently. And the idea of a pickup truck going up $17,000, maybe not the best idea for the people who wear MAGA hats because they all drive pickup trucks. But at the same time, he's got to be careful how he does it because he can never contradict Trump. You have to start off by saying, you're a genius. This is the best idea ever. But maybe we should just bring in a couple of changes to this thing because these trucks, they cross the border constantly, and you can't raise the price of a pickup truck by $17,000 and not have people manage you. By the way, you know what Trump did? It's on the front page of the Wall Street Journal today. Two sources who were in the meeting. He sat down. He had a conversation with the heads of all the auto companies and threatened them.
Yeah.
If they dare increase the price, but if the price increases by $17,000, guess what? They're going to pass that on to consumers. They don't need Donald Trump's permission to do that. It's going to be because of Donald Trump.
That was an interesting part of the story that didn't get much attention, right? Apparently it happened a while ago. The Wall Street Journal just picked up on that. Can you imagine going to someone whose prices you're going to increase by virtue of what it is you plan to do and tell them, look, if you plan to hike your prices just because I made everything more expensive for you, they'll be held to pay. I mean, it boggles the mind. Honestly, it does.
But they're afraid of him. Wow. Even though the highest level business people in the United States, heading up the largest companies, they know that Trump's a lunatic, so they're afraid of him.
We'll leave it at that. Tom, you have a great weekend. Thanks so much.
All the best, Aaron. Yeah,
take care.
Great.